Yo, what's good on today's video? I got how to make a basic combat system. This is pretty much this is it. I made like two videos like this, one in 2023 and one in 2024. So it's been a while. I wanted to make an updated version, which is it's a much better, much like better architecture, client and server architecture. It's just way better, way smoother, performance friendly. It's just so much better, right? Plus it's just a 2026 version. So if you want to know how to make a very basic combat system, it looks nice with some animations, some sound effects and whatnot, and some damage, you come to the right place. It's going to be nothing too overly complex. So this is for beginners, intermediates, or just in general, anyone who just wants to see a combat system. But yep, let's go ahead and let's get straight into it. Okay, so first things first, I'm assuming that most of the people watching this video are generally new to Studio. So if you don't have this Explorer and Properties tab already open, make sure you go ahead and have that open. Click Window at the top, make sure these are open. Also make sure you open the output. We are going to use this to debug our code. Errors will pop up in the output if there are any. So yeah, anyway, first things first, let's go ahead and let's create um or actually let's do this first. Let's get our assets and then we will move. Yeah, so let's do this first. Let's get assets. Okay. So we're gonna go ahead and head on over to replicated storage, right? We're gonna click the plus icon, we're gonna insert a remote event. We're gonna use this remote event to communicate between the server and the client. So for this, we can just call this event combat event, right? We're gonna use this to communicate between the server and client for specific combat events, right? Then head on over to starter player scripts, plus icon, insert a local script. Before we begin coding, I want to go ahead and make sure we have our assets. So for assets, we just have sound effects and animations. Okay, so first up, right, I'm gonna have all of the assets. I'm gonna have all of the assets um linked in the description, right? So you guys don't even have to find your own. But I just want to explain something. I'm just a scripter. I'm not an animator. I get all of my assets from the toolbox. Literally window toolbox and then just search as you can see here. This is where I got it from. Literally. Just search it up and then just add. That's where I get all my sound effects from, right? Sound effects, animations, whatever. But I'm gonna leave links to all of this stuff, the sound effects and the animations in the description so you guys um can just click those links and just easily add the stuff. So for the sound effects, it's simply just inserting them and moving them to sound servers. For the animations, you have to go through the process of publishing your animation and then getting the animation ID for it and stuff. If you don't know how to do it, I have videos on that. So if you need that video, just let me know in the comments. I'll reply to your comment with that video and whatnot. But yep, so inside the local script, we can go ahead and click the plus icon. Let's insert the animation, right? So we can call this M1. So this is our M1 animation, right? So M1 can either be left and right, or you can do 1, 2, 3, which is like left punch, right punch, and then like a down slam or like a like a kind of like a kick, like a knockback. I'm just gonna do just 1, 2. So left punch, right punch. So M1 animation. Then in parentheses you're gonna put one. This is one is in for this is for left punch. Then we can go ahead and right click this. We can duplicate it and then change this 1 to a 2. So we have one M1 animation 1 and M1 animation 2. So left punch, right punch. Very simple. And then they currently do not have animation IDs. These are my animation IDs. You cannot use my animation IDs. Animation IDs are unique to the player. You have to get your own animation ID. Again, I have videos that show you how to publish animations, even if they're not yours, and you can get the animation ID. Let me know if you need that video and stuff, right? Because I will have the link to the animations I used in the description. But yeah, so I'm just gonna go ahead. This is my left animation, so I'm just gonna copy that and paste that in there. So right, Control C. Oh, by the way, actually, if you just want to do the combat but no animations, you can continue the video without needing the animations. You'll just have to delete some parts of the code, like the code that involves the animation stuff. Just don't include that, and then you're pretty much good. But yeah. So okay, so we have our two animations. We also have our two sound effects. I want to clarify something, right? So these sound effects are inside of sound servers, right? So we have hit and punch. These are two different things. Punch, you're just throwing a punch. You're throwing your fist, right? You don't have to hit anything for the sound to play. Hit is when you actually hit something, when you make contact with a player or enemy NPC. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, so let's head on over and let's get into coding. Okay. So open up the local script. We can rename this to be combat script in parentheses per local. We can delete print hello worlds. We need to create a whole bunch of variables first. So first, let's create a variable for the user input service. Local UIS is equal to game get service, user input service. We're going to use this to detect user input, pretty much when the player is left clicking. Then let's create a variable for the sound service. So SS is equal to game get service, sound service. This is for playing sounds. Then let's create a variable for our player. This is how we're gonna get our player's character from through the use of this variable. So we're gonna get the player. create a variable for our combat event, so our remote event. So combat event is equal to game, the replicated storage, wait for child, combat event. Then we are going to create a variable for our M1 tracker. So we're going to say M1 tracker is equal to 1. So to clarify, remember, we're going left, right. What that means is 1, if it's set to 1, then that means we're throwing a left punch. If it's set to 2, we're throwing a right punch. Then it'll reset. It'll go 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. It'll just keep going back and forth, right? So right now it'd be left punch, right now it'd be right punch, then we go back to left, and then it would just keep going that cycle, right? Then we need a variable. So I'm also going to explain this video for people who also want to learn and stuff. If you just want to get to the scripting and stuff, then you can skip to that part. But the point of this is for people to learn and understand what it is they're typing, right? So for the next thing, we have attacking, right? So let's create this variable, right? So attacking, right? We're going to set this to false. This is a Boolean. So this is pretty much very straightforward, whether or not the player is currently attacking. Now I do want to clarify something. This is simply for the client and stuff, right? I do have server-side validation to ensure a player is not attacking when they're not supposed to. This is just simply like just so that animations aren't playing if the player's already attacking or if they're on cooldown or whatnot, right? Let's say for an exploiter, and so if an exploiter was trying, because like I do have like server validation to prevent exploiters from bypassing the system or exploiting essentially, right? So let's say they bypass this, it doesn't matter. All that'll happen is the animation will play, but no damage will actually be done because we handle the damage and verifying and validating that the player is, within distance of the other player on the server side, and then they can attack on the server side. But yeah, moving on, then create a variable for the player's character, which is essential. So we'll say is equal to player.character, or if the player's character hasn't been loaded, we can just say player.character added wait, right? Then lastly, we're going to create an animations table. So we're going to say animations is equal to special brackets enter, right? So then regular bracket 1. So for our first, this is for your left punch. You can just say character dot humanoid dot animator load animation in parentheses put script regular bracket quotation marks. Then you can just put M1 animation 1, and then you can just put a comma, and then you can just copy this. So select it, Control C, Control V, just copy and paste. Then you're just going to change this to a 2 and change this as well to a 2. So this is our first animation and our second animation, right? We're preloading our animations to ensure that they're already loaded so that we don't have to keep reloading them every time, right? Helps with performance and also just speed. That way they're already loaded, so all we gotta do is play them. So again, these two animations. Moving on, we can now get into the functions. So UIS that input began connect function in parentheses put input, comma processed enter. So input, obviously the specific input type is we want left click. So we're gonna say if input dot user input type is equal to enum dot user input type dot mouse button one, which is left click and not processed. What this means is the player did not press their mouse button while they were typing in chat. Obviously, if a player clicks their mouse for whatever reason while they're typing in chat, you don't want them to throw a punch. So enter. And then we're gonna run our check. We're gonna say if attacking, enter, then return, right? If the player's already attacking, then we're just gonna return. Again, I validate this on the server, so no need to worry. If an exploiter bypasses this, it doesn't matter. All that'll happen is that the animation will play. That's it. No damage will be done. But yeah. So then of course we'll set attacking is equal to true. Then we will record the current combo. This is for just for concurrency, I believe is the proper term and stuff. So we're just gonna record this real quick. So M1 tracker, whatever it's currently on. Right, and then we're going to play the animation track. So since it's already loaded, we can just simply say animations, regular bracket, current combo, and then we can just play our animation track. Very simple. So we'll play the punch, right? And then we can then play our or actually before I get to that, I wanted to talk about something. We're about to get to this part in the script in the code. So what you need to also do in the animations, you need to create an animation event, right? You don't have to do this. I mean, unless you know what you're doing, then you kind of have to do this to follow along the video. But yeah, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna insert a rig. I want to show you guys something because it won't really make sense to people who've never done it before. Okay. So I'm gonna insert a rig, right? So I just click the avatar at the top, then character, and then just make sure you choose the right rig type for your animation. For these animations, it's R6. Oh, by the way, very important. Make sure your stuff is is R6 for these specific animations if you're using these. So you click avatar, literally just click avatar at the top, settings right here, click R6 only, and then a pop-up should say like, oh, you need to restart. Just click restart. It doesn't mean restart studio. It means like it's assuming that like your game, that this is like a published game and there are players currently playing it, and it means restart the server. But yeah. But anyway. So right, clip editor. Again, I have videos on like how to load animations and everything, so just go look at that. But here, so look at this real quick, right? If I import from Roblox, right? This is the punch animation, right? So you notice how it has this? This is an animation event. This is very important, right? For the video, you need to have this, right? So you saw how all I did was I imported from Roblox my animation. Once you publish your animation, right? You want to import it, right? Go to the thing, right? And then you want to simply find wherever the animation, like you're actually making contact with the enemy, and then you're going to create an animation event. We're going to use this animation event to detect like, okay, the player should be making contact with the enemy player if there is one within range, and then we're going to do the damage, because you don't want it to be you're damaging a player like right now, like right here, where like you're winding up the punch. You want it to be here, right? Like about here. It doesn't have to be exactly here. It could be here. You know what I mean? It's up to you guys, but just right here and stuff. Thankfully, with this animation, this actually came already pre-made. And then you want to name it hit. If you don't know how to create an animation event, literally go to the go to the point you're at, just right click, and then you're gonna click add animation event here. Just name it hit, and then that should be it. Like here, I'll make one add animation event, add event, hit, right? And then just save, and then boom, now you have it, right? I just removed it by the way. But yeah, so you just add it, and then very, very, very important, it is not going to automatically save. So once you've added your animation event, you're just simply going to publish to Roblox, right? Just, minimize that, overwrite an existing asset, find the specific animation, save it, and then boom, you're good to go. You don't have to update the ID or anything. It's the same ID, and then now you'll be good to go with the animations. I just wanted to clarify that and stuff because we are going to be using this. This helps with consistency, so that it's like you deal damage when the animation has reached a certain point, like at the perfect time. So it makes the combat flow a lot more smoothly because it's like, okay, as I'm hitting the player, like as my fist is literally making contact with the player, they're getting damaged. Okay, now back to the coding. So moving on, we're then going to clone the punch sound effect. We're not going to play this from the sound service. Two reasons. One, it can sound weird because you're essentially playing it on the server. Two, um, it glitches. I've noticed it glitches a lot. Like when you rapidly play sound effects from sound service directly. So it's best to play this sound from the player's body itself, because then it's closer to where their fists are, and it actually works every time you call it. So we'll just call this punch sound clone, which is equal to ss dot punch. Remember, very important. Make sure to clone it. Punch sound clone. Then you'll say dot parent. You parent it to the characters humanoid root part, right? Then you could just say punch sound clone, but I say sound cloud play, and then upon the sound ending, so ended connect function close parentheses enter, then you can just destroy it because we obviously don't want like a million different sounds inside of the character's humanoid root part, so you can destroy it once we're done. Then moving on, we're gonna set up the event I was just talking about. So we have our animation track. We're gonna say get marker reached signal. You gotta capitalize every word, right? And then quotation marks. Remember what we named the event. We named it hit, right? We named your whatever you named the animation event, but I assume you went with the name I went with. So hit, then go on the outside, and then you're gonna say once. So unlike connect runs every time a function is triggered. Once means literally just runs once, because that's all we want. We only want it to fire to the server once, right? So once the animation has reached that certain point, we're then gonna create our function, close parentheses, enter. Then we're gonna fire our remote event, combat event, fire server, right? Quotation marks, put combat. Then you're gonna put special brackets. We're gonna create a table, or actually put a comma and then enter, then special brackets. Boom, right? And then we can just backspace. Yep, so something that should look just like this, right? Very simple. So this is again where the validation comes in, right? Because we need to send over this stuff, right? So we're gonna check this on the server. So the type of combat event, right? Type of combat will be M1, because you may have other stuff like skills, abilities, whatever the case, right? So M1 comma, then the combo. This is simply like the number, like if it's left punch, right punch kind of thing, right? Then you're just gonna send over current combo, and then boom, right? Then you're gonna skip the end. We're done with that. Then you're gonna increment your M1 tracker plus equal 1, right? If M1 tracker is equal to 3, then we're just gonna reset it. M1 tracker is equal to 1, because remember we're going 1 2 1 2, so left right left right left right, not 1 2 3. You know what I mean? But yeah. Then task.wait. So this is very important. I am going to wait 35 seconds before setting attacking back to false. I do want to clarify something. This works if you're using my animations, like, or not like I didn't make these. I'm saying like if you're using the animation I use in the video, then you have nothing to worry about. You're fine. However, if you're using different animations either you made or someone else made, you may have to change this, right? You may have to change this. You may need to change this. You may need to increase the wait time. You may need to decrease the wait time. It's completely up to you. So feel free if you're noticing like consistency issues where it's like you're able to punch before while the animation is still playing or while you're still punching someone and stuff, where it's too early or it's just too late, then then just adjust this as need be. Same applies for when we get on the server. But yeah. Then after that, we just got two more functions. So we're gonna say player.character added connect function in parentheses put character. Enter. So do want to clarify something. Keep in mind with these animations, we are loading these animations, but these are only loaded for the original character, the first character. We need to update it because let's say if the player, if the player is killed or if they respawn, they reset their character, whatever the case may be, right? We need their character to continue to update along with the animation. So literally what you're going to do is you're going to copy everything right here except for local. So Control C, just copy that, everything, ignore local. Then just paste it. You're literally just updating the variable animations, right? You're just updating it. That's it. Then onto the remote event stuff. So we're then going to say combat event down client event connect function in parentheses put event type comma arg1 short for argument number 1, which is just a piece of information that was sent from the server to the client. So enter. Then we're going to say if event type is equal to in quotation marks m1 or sorry not m1 sorry not m1 hit. So pretty much what this is, enter. This is for when you make contact with an enemy, right? It's then going to play the sound effect because you don't want to play the sound on the whatchamacallit, on the server side. So we're going to create a variable for the enemy character is equal to arg1. This is actually very good, right? Because what we want is we want to play the sound like, it makes sense. If you're punching something, you want like the sound of it being hit, Like if you punch someone in real life, the sound of them getting hit would come from not your fist, but their face. And so like, whatever you hit, if you punch a wall, it'd be, the sound of you hitting a wall. You know what I mean? So we're then going to insert the sound into the enemy character. So here's the great thing. We can actually copy and paste. So you're going to go here, copy and paste this part we just did, copy, come down, paste, same thing, except remember, this is hit this time instead of punch, right? And then obviously you want enemy character instead of regular character. And then yeah, just like that, we are done with the local script. That simple, guys. Let me just double check to make sure we are good. Okay. So yeah, now moving on, we can move on to the server side stuff, right? Now things get a little more complex and very cool. So let's insert a server script. Rename the script to be core script and parentheses put server. Enter. Then we're going to delete print hello world. We're going to create a variable for our combat event, just like we did on the local side. So we'll say combat event. By the way, local and client are the same thing if you wonder. But yeah, combat event is equal to game.replicated storage and wait for child combat event, right? Then from here, we're then going to create a function, game.players.player added connect function in parentheses put PLR, which is short for the player who joined the game. This function will run whenever a player joins the game. We need to create a cooldown folder. This will keep track of whenever player is on cooldown or has a cooldown on something. Cooldown folder is equal to instance.new. It's a folder. Then cooldown folder.name is equal to cooldown folder. And then cooldown.parent is equal to player, right? And then we're going to create, and then we are also, I'm wondering, yeah, I'll do the combat status. Okay, yeah. So the same way, so okay, the cooldown folder is where we're gonna have the official cooldown stuff, but we are also gonna have like we are also gonna have like a combat status system. Most games, so okay, a lot of games they have a combat status system. Also, sometimes it's referred to as a general status system. That's how we can tell whether or not like you should be able to do something or not. There's a difference between a status system and a cooldown system, right? Cooldown just means, oh, you can't use that specific thing until the cooldown is done. A status system means what you're currently doing. Like, let's say, like, you're playing, like, a Battlegrounds game, and, like, you're in a cutscene, like, someone's, I don't know, using, like, their domain expansion or some shit on you, right? You're not going to obviously be able to attack them and stuff, right? So that would be status. Cooldown is more so, you use a skill or ability, and you can't use it for 7 seconds, right? Even though you're not being attacked. But yeah, so we're going to create a basic combat status system. Nothing too complex. I'm really trying to show you guys stuff. I actually will make a part 2 and part 3, like expanding on the system and making it even more intricate. and stuff, if this video does well. So yeah, it all depends on you guys. So instance.new, this is going to be a string value. Combat status.name is equal to combat status. Combat status dot combat status dot value by default should be empty string, which just means you're not doing anything combat wise at least. Parent is equal to player. Yes. Then we will set up the hitbox stuff. We will say player.character added, connect function, in parentheses, put character, enter, right? Then we will create our hitbox. So hitbox is equal to instance.new, right? This is going to be a part. And then we're going to, of course, name it hitbox. We'll say hitbox.anchored is equal to false. Hitbox.massless is equal to true. Hitbox.canCollide is equal to false. Hitbox.canTouch is equal to false. Hitbox.transparency is equal to 1 unless you're testing it. Hitbox.size is equal to vector3.new 5, 6, 2.5. And then hitbox.color, this is for testing, is equal to color3.new 1, 0, 0, which is a nice red. And then we're going to weld it. So weld constraint is equal to instance.new weld constraint. Weld constraint.part 0 is equal to hitbox. Weld constraint.part 1 is equal to character dot humanoid root part. Then we will say weld constraint. Then we will say, or actually we could do that after. We're then going to say hitbox.parent is equal to character. Hitbox.cframe is equal to character.humanoid root part.cframe. And then lastly, we can say, well, constraint.parent is equal to hitbox, right? Okay, then we're done with that first main function. Now we can move on to the combat stuff, right? So let's say combat event dot on server event connect function in parentheses, put PLR, which is short for the player, and then events type, comma arg1, again, argument number 1 stands for information that this time was sent from the client to the server. Enter, we'll create a variable for the player's character is equal to player.character. Then we'll say if event, if event type is equal to, in quotation marks, combat, enter, and then we'll get the combat type. Because obviously in a real game, there's multiple combat types. You know, you have skills, you have M1, you have specials, ultimates, you know, all that stuff. So we'll then say combat table is equal to arg1. Remember, that's what we created, if you recall. That would be this. This is the table. And then we have the type and the combo. So boom, we have that. And then we can get the combat type from said table. So it's equal to combat table, regular bracket, quotation marks, type, right? And then we can say if combat type is equal to quotation marks M1, enter. Then we can say if player dot cooldown folder. So, okay, so we're going to go through a whole bunch of checks, and I'm going to explain every one, right? This is with the server validation, verification, making sure everything works and stuff like that. I know those two words mean two different things. I've been learning about that in my class, but but we're just going to use them interchangeably. So we are going to make sure that everything is in order. First things first, let's make sure that the player is currently does not have an M1 cooldown, and to make sure their combat status is in order. So cooldown folder, so if player find first child, find first, oh my goodness, find first child, quotation marks, M1 cooldown. So if M1 cooldown is found inside of the cooldown folder, that means they should not be able to M1 because they are currently on cooldown. Or if player dot combat status dot value is not equal to empty quotation marks, then that means they're doing something, whether they be attacking or something. So they should not be able to enter. Then you'll just return. So we'll just halt execution. Then we also need to check so here is where the exploiter, like I guess you could say the not exploit proof. What's the word I'm looking for? Like protection, I guess you could say, like just verification to ensure that an exploiter can't exploit pretty much. So you're gonna say first things first, if type of arg1 is not equal to table, that's first, enter, then return n, then return, right? Now if you don't understand what that means, type of just literally returns the type of whatever, right? Event type is a string. This is a string, right? Um, and then character would be this type would be model, right? And then combat type is also a string. So pretty much what this is, right, is it's saying if type of arg1 just be a table. Because recall, this is a table, right? So let's say if an exploiter was just like, just they constantly just kept, sending like, they set this to false all the time. So they just kept M1ing all the time, right? It wouldn't matter because when you get to this part, they're not sending over type is equal to M1 and all that stuff. And I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure in an actual game you would probably have like certain like codes or something. You would have something to verify, something that only like you as a developer would know, like or like the server would know, like that, tells whether or not like, pretty much the whole point of this is to check to make sure that a piece of information is being sent over. And if it's not being sent over, then you are to assume that an exploiter is essentially doing something they're not supposed to be doing, or a player just in general. But yeah. So that's our first check. And then next step we're gonna say if arg1 dot type is not equal to M1, right? Enter, return. Now this is just essential, right? Because keep in mind, if you're firing the combat event, right, and we get to this M1, right, we get here, like let's say you send over the table, but then you also have to remember to send over the specific combat type, which is M1, right? So it's just like a kind of like two-layer testing, I guess you could say. And then for the next thing and then for the last thing we'll do, because we already did status. And then for the last thing we will do a kind of server consistency check, which is it's the same logic as this. The same logic as this. It's not our main verification. Our main verification is our main way of knowing whether or not the player can attack is this statement right here, is whether or not they're on cooldown and their combat status. This is to prevent exploiters, and then this, along with what we're about to do, is just simply for consistency's sake. So we're going to create an attribute. We'll say if player get attribute, right, attacking, which clearly means they're attacking, then return. They should not be attacking, right? Then that is our final check. So if they're not attacking, then we go ahead and do this. Player set attribute, attacking, and then you can set it to true, right? And then you can go on ahead and also update the player's combat status. So combat status dot value is equal. If you want, you can specify if you want. You could say like M1 or attacking, really up to you. Um, right. So we'll do that, and we'll also create our cooldown. So we will say cooldown is equal to instance.new bool value. We say cooldown dot name is equal to quotation marks cooldown. Then cooldown dot parent is equal to player dot cooldown folder, right? Player dot cooldown folder. Then we'll add a delay function. So task dot delay. Then we'll do 0.35 seconds. Again, notice that that's the same time here. Again, change this if you're noticing any consistency errors. If it's taking too long to punch, to be able to punch, or if it's too quick and the player can punch too quick, then increase it or decrease it as you please. So function, close parentheses, enter, right? And then we will destroy the cooldown value. The player's no longer on cooldown. We will update the player's attribute. So set attribute, attacking, set this to false. And we will also update the player's combat status. So player.combat status dot value is set to an empty string. So this is a task.delay function, which means it'll run I believe the term is asynchronously, even though it's not a sync or oh, never mind. Anyway, but yeah, task.delay, pretty much what it means is this code will run after the set time, but it won't halt the code. It's not the same as task.wait. It won't like halt the code. It'll keep. It won't like halt the rest of the stuff. But yeah, now moving on to now for the last part is detecting hit. So if you watch my other videos, I usually use the raycasting and stuff. I, really took my time to make sure everything was improved this time. So we're going to use this different method. So instead of recast parameters, we're going to use overlap parameters. Okay, I don't know what I'm doing. So we're going to call this overlap params. I don't want to use the same name as, because this is a thing. I don't want to, use a name that's already taken. Our default name, I believe this was called. So we're just going to throw a 1 in front of it, and then we're going to say is equal to overlap params dot new, close parentheses. They're going to say overlap params 1 dot filter type is equal to enum dot raycast filter type dot exclude, then overlap params1 dot filter descendants instances is equal to special bracket, and then you can just say character, right? And then we're going to create a table for hit parts. So parts, pretty much making anything that makes contact with this. So we're going to say workspace get parts. We're going to say get part bound. I believe that's what it is. Get part bound. Yeah. Get part. Oh, sorry. Get part bounds inbox. Yes, that. Right. So boom, and then we're going to say character. We're going to say character dot hitbox dot cframe times cframe dot new 0, 0, -2. I'm telling you, so just for clarity's sake, anyone who's watched any of my other previous comment videos, you know it was very sloppy and stuff. I'm telling you, you're gonna notice it so much better. Like this, it's so much more consistent. I like you guys don't even know. I'm excited to be honest with y'all. But anyway, so comma and then on to the next line. We're then gonna say character dot hitbox dot size. So we have the C frame, right? So here, this is our wait, wrong, right there. Yeah. So who's bounding box overlap? See from the location of the center of the given box, right? Then we have the size, so the the hitbox size. Then our overlap parameter. So just like we're raycasting essentially, just the same thing, right? Like usually it's like direction and stuff. Then this again, this is similar to this is to make sure that enemies aren't double hit. Let's say if and for some reason this shouldn't happen, but let's say in the event that the remote event was fired twice for one attack, you don't want a player to be damaged twice. So you'll just create a variable confirmed hit, set it to false, it'll be a boolean, and then you'll just set this to true once the player's been damaged. So we'll say for underscore, never done it like this before, I know, comma part in I pairs hit parts enter, create a variable for our enemy character, which is equal to, you'll say part, you will say find first ancestor, well, find, okay, hold on, find first ancestor of class model, right? Because remember, a character is a model, right? At the end of the day, so or its type, I should say, its type or its class. If enemy character, so if of course enemy character exists, if enemy character find first child humanoid, it's either an NPC or a player, and not confirmed hit, right? If they haven't already taken damage, then we will go ahead and set this to true, and then we can finally do damage. We can say enemy character dot humanoid take damage 20. You can set this to whatever you want, by the way. I'm gonna set it to like 5, just so we can like test better. 5, and then last thing. I keep thinking core event because that's usually what I name them. Combat event. By our client player, comma quotation marks hit, comma send over the enemy character. I remember that would be this part of the code right here. Okay, guys, we are officially done. Let's go ahead and test to make sure everything works. So the way we can test, you'll go here, click server and clients. Let me just go ahead and make sure the output is open. Click server and clients. Make sure this is at the 2. Increase this up to 2. You need at least 2 NPCs. Then just hit play and then just wait. As always, if you guys want access to any one of my scripts or models, including this one, just simply read the description and find out how to get access to that. Just read the description. You find out how to get access to that. Feel free to ask any questions that if you're confused about anything. And yeah. All right. So let's go ahead and test. Okay. So boom. Right. So if I I'm gonna hope it's there. Oh, okay. I don't know why it's doing that. Well, anyway. Okay, so hmm. That's why it's doing that. I figured. I may have done something wrong, guys. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't why is it giving me that error? It says infinite possible work with a search for child. Combat event. I'm not understanding. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not understanding. That's what it's called. Combat event. This is very strange. Okay, guys, hold on a second. Let me see. Will it give me the same? What is going on? Infinite possible on. So guys, I might be a little bit stupid, just a little bit. I'm trying to think. I'm not understanding. Wait for a child combat event. Why would this be an infinite yield if it? I'm not understanding. Why would it be an infinite yield if this exists? Replicated storage combat event. I'm not understanding. That's literally that's what it's called. It's called combat. I'm not understanding. Why would this? I don't understand. This is the right, yeah. Replicated storage combat event. I'm not understanding what the problem is. Did I? Huh. This is very strange. This this is very strange. I'm not understanding. Combat event is equal to game dot replicated storage wait for child. I'm genuinely, bro, am I actually stupid? I'm not understanding what is going on. I'm not gonna lie. Okay, I will be back, guys, when I figure out whatever is going on. I will be back. Alright, what's up, guys? So I'm an idiot, right? We all know that already, but that's aside from the point. So I know what's causing this issue. So I haven't even figured out exactly what it is, but I just wanted to show you guys, just my, you know, idiocy. So for some reason, right, we see the combat event is here, right? For some reason, when I hit play, it disappears, right, on the client side, right? Because notice how if I switch over to the server side, it's also gone, right? Sorry, I meant both sides, which means I'm reparenting it somewhere. That means at some part of the code, I accidentally, I accidentally reparented it. Like I removed it from replicated storage, which means I either deleted it or I reparented it somewhere else. Now, you notice how it disappeared on both the client and server? Well, if I was deleting it or moving it on the client side, it wouldn't be like that on the server side, which means it can't be on the script, it's somewhere on the script. So if I control plus F and I search up combat event to find, and there is the culprit right there. I was reparenting the combat event to the player. Phenomenal. Okay. So yeah, guys, make sure you fix this. It's supposed to say combat status. It's the problem when they have similar names. Combat. They both have combat at the beginning of the name, so make sure you fix that combat status. Okay, now let's test. Let me just make sure real quick. Okay, boom, there we go. As you guys can see, left punch, right punch, left punch, right punch. And you see how it's so consistent? Boom, left, right, left. I can spam click and even then it's still, because of our cooldown, very nice. Okay, now let's test with enemies. So yeah. Let's go ahead, let's test. Server and clients. We already got two. So yeah. So guys, I'm an idiot. Moral story, I'm an idiot. Make sure you don't type too quick. Make sure you check your code before you test it and whatnot. And yeah, hopefully you'll learn something from the debugging. But yeah, okay. So we have player one here, then we have player two. So let's go ahead and let's test the hitbox. So boom, as you can see, right? So first of all, right, you guys hear the punching, the sound of the punching, right? But if I actually hit the player, you actually hear the sound of me hitting somebody, right? Now we can test the hitbox and stuff for some of you who may have concerns. Again, if you watch my previous videos, you're probably, you know how I used to code this stuff. Anyway, so yeah, so boom, direct, right, side. Again, like we're hitting it at all the weird angles. You feel me? Boom. It's gonna hit no matter what, regardless of if you're like kind of spaced out or if you're like right up close and personal. Literally, if you are, it'll still always hit, right? So yeah, very nice. But yeah. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. This was how to make a basic combat system. This was 2026 version. A lot better, new and improved. I am beyond happy. I would be beyond thrilled to make a part 2 and part 3, adding on more stuff, maybe adding like effects and whatnot. I don't think there's much improvements to what this is because I spent a lot of time making this and improving it, I should say. That was kind of the point of the video. But yeah, just let me know any suggestions you guys want to see, any other videos you want to see in general. If you guys enjoyed this video, if you did, definitely leave a like, subscribe. Again, read the description to find out how to gain access to any one of my scripts or models. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching.